Did you know in Arc 2 of ReZero, in the web novel, that Emilia says that she will do anything for Subaru, including sexual favors? And Subaru, of course, is extremely excited about that. And of course, Emilia starts breaking down in tears. Do you believe that this happened? Well, it did. And that's one example of some fan-servicey elements which has been removed from the web novel. In this video, I'll be talking about all of the fan service from the light novel, the web novel, and of course the anime. And I'm pretty sure some of these things will actually shock you that they exist. So if you're at anime only, this video will be safe for you because I'm only covering Season 1 and Season 2. I will also be covering the side stories around Season 1 and Season 2 of the anime also. The best place to start is, of course, Arc 1. Now, if you've watched my live streams, then I've already mentioned this before. Most of us know that Elsa is, of course, a sexualized character. However, did you know that in the light novel, namely Volume 1, when Subaru meets with Elsa, we have an illustration of Elsa. However, in this illustration, if you zoom in and you actually focus on her assets, you can actually see that her nipples are sort of protruding through her clothing, and you can notice that there are two small bumps on each breast. Now, of course, I'm zooming in so you can sort of see this yourself, but you can see there are noticeable bumps on her dress, which of course represent where her nipples are at. After Reinhardt beats Elsa in a fight, we see that Elsa runs away from Subaru and states that she will of course come back and gut him later. However, what we find out in the Assassin Sister's diary is that Elsa actually meets up with Meili, and due to Reinhardt's sort of abilities, this causes Elsa's wounds to not heal as effectively. This causes Meili to get some sort of ointment from a witch beast and have to smother it all over Elsa's naked body to heal her wounds. And we get an illustration of Elsa buck naked. I have to, of course, censor this because it will obviously demonetize me. So yeah, you can see it on screen. I've censored it, but this happens in an Arc 1 side story. In the Arc 2 web novel, when Subaru wakes up, he of course wakes up with his bathrobe on. However, we don't actually see how he gets into that clothing. We actually find out in the web novel that Emilia is the person that strips Subaru naked out of his tracksuit and redresses him. And that's a whole chapter in the web novel where Subaru's dejected about this. This is of course cut out in the light novel and the anime. Shortly after, we see Emilia outside, and this happens in the anime where Puck, Emilia, and Subaru spend time together. And of course, this is where Subaru teaches Emilia about exercising in the morning. However, in the web novel, it goes a bit differently, where Subaru actually trips over and slides underneath Emilia, seeing that she wears white panties. Emilia gets embarrassed and then proceeds to shoot ice balls at Subaru so he can repent. Again, this is something which is stereotypical in isekai anime, and it's cut out of the anime and light novel. Then shortly after, we get the scene I talked about at the start of the video. The idea that Emilia is so grateful for what Subaru has done in helping her get her royal insignia that she will do anything for Subaru. And of course Subaru is saying, oh, you shouldn't say that as a woman because people will take advantage of you. And Emilia again goes on saying she'll do anything, and apparently she uses extremely sexualized moaning. So some of the words she's using, stuff like umph. Apparently in Japan that's sexualized moaning. So Emilia is essentially saying Subaru can do sexualized things to her. However, she starts crying afterwards, and of course Subaru feels a bit sadistic seeing Emilia's demeanor. It seemed in the web novel, of course, Emilia was more aware of sexual things. Of course, we know in the anime version and the light novel, Emilia believes that kisses make babies, but in the web novel, it seemed like she was a bit more knowledgeable about the repercussions of sexual things. When Subaru questions Roswell, again in the Arc 2 web novel, Roswell, of course, doesn't really answer his questions. However, Subaru says that if Roswell doesn't answer, then he's going to sexually assault Emilia, which again gives a negative reaction from Emilia. And again, this is a real thing, it does happen, you can see it on screen. And again, this is of course removed like the previous things from the web novel. So you guys can see in the web novel, Subaru is a bit of a scumbag, and I'm glad it's being changed. At the end of Arc 2, Subaru and the rest of the cast play the King game. For those that don't know, the King game is where everyone will draw lots, and on the lots that they draw, there will be a number, and someone will be the king. And the king will say something like, number 1, you have to do this. So the king's words are absolute. In the King game, Subaru gets other people to strip off their clothes, of course wanting Emilia to take off her clothing, and Subaru tells number 3 to take off their underwear. Of course this backfires, and it turns out this is actually Beatrice, so Beatrice has to go outside and take off her underwear. And again, Subaru is really aggressive, saying, Beatrice, strip now! And it's pretty weird. On a small tangent, in ReZero Prophecy of the Throne, in a side route, Subaru also tried to strip Beatrice by throwing water on her and trying to get her dirty so that she would have to take off her clothing. Of course, he fails every single time, and the reason why he's trying to do this is to sort of repay a favor, because Beatrice has helped him, so he wants to help Beatrice by like making her clothes or something, and so the way he wants Beatrice to sort of get out of her clothes is by making her strip. So Subaru goes out of his way to try and get Beatrice wet so she'll take off her clothes. Again, it's pretty weird, but you know, it's not the first time Subaru has tried to do this. In Arc 3, when Subaru meets Krush, apparently in this illustration you can see Krush's nipples. Again, I'm not too sure on this, but people will literally argue it to the death, so I'm including it. After the White Whale fight, Subaru goes back to the mansion to where Emilia is, and she actually is changing when Subaru and Ram walk in, and of course Subaru sees Emilia naked and changing her clothes. In Arc 2, I totally forgot to go over this, but I skipped it. But we actually have an illustration of Rem dressing up Ram, and again we can see Ram in her underwear and bra, which again, you know, super fanservice-y. In Arc 4, Ryuzu Maya is depicted as wearing a white dress when she's locked in the crystal. However, in the anime, she's depicted as being naked, so I have no clue why they made this change. Likewise, there are other changes to some characters, such as Echidna. Again, if you've watched my live streams, you already know this, but Echidna's breast size has been significantly increased from the light novel to the anime. This also happened with Emilia in Season 2, and Emilia's breast size was reduced in the Blu-ray DVD, so again, I'm not too sure why they increased their bust size. Pretty much all of the witches have fan service, and Typhoon, for example, her notable fan service is that her dress is actually transparent, so you can see here that you can actually see her legs, and again, I'm not too sure why they've done this, but yeah. In addition to the witches having fan service, most of you know this by now, but Pandora doesn't wear any panties. In fact, this was shown when episode 44 was released with this promotional image. However, they had to release a censored version due to the backlash that it garnered. Most witches have illustrations showing them in bra and panties. This includes Typhon, Daphne, and Sekhmet, alongside Frederica, but of course I'm not going to show you all of them, but you can find them on the ReZero wiki character pages. Of course there's a lot more fan service than this, but I've only covered a small amount and I don't want to get into light novel and web novel spoilers. I also omitted the fact that Priscilla owes Subaru a fondling, and Subaru is allowed to touch Priscilla's breasts, but you know, hopefully you guys have learned something new, and I'll see you guys